This mother and son were lost at sea for 8 days and presumed dead. When only he came back alive, they thought that he killed her. This is the case behind the new Netflix true crime documentary, The Carman Family Deaths. On September 17th, 2016, 56-year-old Linda Carman and her 22-year-old son Nathan left for a fishing trip. Going out on these fishing trips was something that the mother and son did a lot together. It honestly wasn't Linda's favorite thing to do, but it was how her and her son bonded. Linda and Nathan were supposed to return the following day, but they never did. The Coast Guard ended up doing this huge search. Like, they searched over 64,000 nautical square miles, and there were no signs of Linda, Nathan, or Nathan's boat. And after 6 long days of extensive searches of the sea, the search was called off, and the mother and son that were once presumed lost at sea were now presumed dead. And then 8 days after first going missing, 22-year-old Nathan was found alive by a large cargo ship just floating on a life raft in the middle of the ocean. He had seemingly survived by just floating on this tiny blow-up lifeboat for over a week. All things considered, Nathan was in pretty good shape, but tragically his mom Linda was not with him. Nathan said for some reason him and his mom ended up going deep sea fishing the day that they disappeared, even though they had never gone deep sea fishing before. They actually went 70 miles out into the ocean, farther than they had ever gone before. The day after they left, around midday, Nathan said that he heard a strange noise coming from the engine and that the boat was taking in water. Nathan said that he did not think the problem was that serious and that he would be able to fix it, so despite having a radio, he never radioed for help, something that a lot of people have had a lot of problems with. Nathan and his mom Linda are frantically trying to scoop water out of their boat. But before Nathan knew it, it was too late, and within minutes, the boat had completely filled with water and sunk beneath their feet. Nathan luckily had enough time to grab the life raft, but by the time everything was over, his mom Linda had seemingly disappeared. He didn't see her, he didn't hear her, nothing. At first, this really did seem like a tragic accident, but also this remarkable story of survival, how Nathan was able to survive just floating in the middle of the ocean for over a week. But very quickly, public opinion started to change. There were already things that I previously mentioned that were really weird to people, but then there was more, and just adding it all up, it did not look good. It looked really suspicious. Everyone that knew Linda said that she did not like fishing and she would never have gone deep sea fishing. Right before heading to the marina, Nathan and his mom were seen on CCTV footage buying bait, but that exact bait was found in Nathan's vehicle. He did not bring the bait with him fishing, but he bought it right before going fishing. That's pretty weird. But probably the biggest thing that made the public and the investigators suspicious of Nathan was his behavior. He was emotionless. He did not seem like a young man grieving the tragic death of his mother. He seemed cold and calculated. But Nathan Carman was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder around the age of 5. He was always a bit socially awkward. He had trouble expressing and showing emotion. He was more calculated in his thought and his speech. And if you have someone in your life that is on the spectrum, that might sound really familiar. But to the investigators, it made Nathan suspicious of murder, especially after diving into Nathan's background, because turns out this was not the first member of his family to die after last being seen with Nathan. So here's a little bit more about this family's background. Nathan's mom, Linda, was one of 4 daughters to her mother and her father, John Chuckless. Her father, John, had this big, larger-than-life personality. He was very hardworking and even more successful. This family had a lot of money. I'm talking tens of millions of dollars. It was said that Linda was the most like her father, John. They both had these big personalities. They were stubborn and hard-headed, so they would butt heads a lot. John would even threaten to cut off his daughter Linda, cut her off from his money and her inheritance if she ever disobeyed him, even into her adulthood. Linda married and they had their one and only child, Nathan. He was the firstborn grandson in this family, so his grandfather John was obsessed with him. Linda and her father John would argue constantly about how to raise Nathan because John was a part of the older generation, he didn't fully understand autism, or at least that's what the family says. Nathan struggled a lot in his teen years. He didn't have any friends. He was bullied. At one point, he ran away. At one point, his parents literally had Nathan abducted. Grown men came into his room in the middle of the night and against his will took him to one of those disturbing teen behavior camps. Nathan was definitely closest with his grandfather John, and John showered Nathan in money. On December 20th, 2013, Nathan's grandfather and Linda's father, John Chockless, was found murdered in his bed, shot in the head. His $42 million estate was split between his 4 daughters, and his grandson, Nathan, was the last person to ever see him alive. They had dinner the night before, but Nathan says it was a good, normal time. They parted ways around 8 p.m., so Nathan could go meet his mom, Linda, at 3 a.m. for a fishing trip. The only issue is that during the time that John was believed to be murdered, there's about an hour that Nathan is unaccounted for, and he was actually over an hour late to meeting his mom with no explanation why. And the night that his grandfather was murdered, Nathan actually removed the GPS from his truck. When questioned by the police, Nathan said that he did not own a gun. But in a search of Nathan's home, they found a receipt for the same caliber weapon that was used to murder his grandfather John. This weapon was actually purchased less than a month before John was murdered. It was purchased out of state and with cash, so it couldn't be traced. So not only did Nathan lie about owning a weapon, to this very day, that weapon has never been found. The entire family agreed to take a polygraph test except for Nathan. During his mother Linda's polygraph, she repeatedly failed on the same question, which was, do you know who killed your father? Is it possible that Linda knew that her son killed her father, but that she was protecting him? Pretty much their entire family thought so, including her 3 sisters. The investigators tried to get a warrant to arrest Nathan for his grandfather's murder, but it was denied because a neighbor reported hearing gunshots around 2 a.m. the night that John was killed. At that exact time, Nathan was seen on his apartment's surveillance cameras, meaning that Nathan could not have killed his grandfather. But what if the neighbors just got the time wrong? It has also been highly debated what Nathan even stood to gain if his grandfather was killed. Nathan wasn't one of John's 4 daughters that were going to split the $40 million estate. If anything, it seemed like Nathan would be worse off if his grandfather was killed because his grandfather was giving him thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every single week. But Nathan did receive a $400,000 life insurance policy following his grandfather's death. And only 3 years later, Nathan's mother disappeared on the high seas and was presumed dead, and he was her sole beneficiary. Leading up to Linda's disappearance, her relationship with her son Nathan was rocky, and her family that believed that her son had also killed her father were warning her that she was likely going to be next. And after she disappeared, that entire side of the family publicly turned on Nathan because they truly believed that he killed 2 members of their family to inherit their family's wealth. Prior to his grandfather's murder, Nathan reached out to his grandfather's trust and estate with a lot of questions about his grandfather's money and his inheritance. Like more specifically, what Nathan was set to inherit if his grandfather and his mother both died. And in a case seemingly all about money and greed, it's not surprising that it was money that was ultimately Nathan's downfall. 2 weeks after his mother and his boat disappeared at sea, Nathan filed an $85,000 insurance claim on his boat. And right as the insurance company was getting ready to pay, they started hearing some really interesting things. Witnesses at the marina reported that the same day that Nathan and his mother Linda went out on their boat and only one of them came back, Nathan was seen removing parts from his boat and drilling holes into his boat. And I am absolutely no expert on boats. Please don't come for me if I got this wrong, but from what I read and what I saw in the documentary, what these witnesses reported Nathan doing to his boat would ultimately sink his boat. So believing that they had hard evidence that Nathan purposefully sank his own boat, the insurance company sued him. And in this civil lawsuit, the judge found that the boat sank because of the damage that Nathan caused to it. So in a sense, even though this is a civil lawsuit, he was found guilty of purposefully sinking his own boat. And after Nathan's insurance claim was denied, the insurance company handed over all of their evidence to the investigators and the FBI. And in 2022, 6 years after his mother disappeared, the now 28-year-old Nathan Carman was arrested for her murder. He was also pretty much being accused of killing his grandfather, all to inherit his family's millions of dollars. The prosecution even had experts that planned to testify that where Nathan was ultimately rescued was about 80 miles in the opposite direction of where he would have drifted if his boat sank where and when he said it did. Nathan Carman's murder trial was set to begin in October of 2023, but before he could go to trial, Nathan Carman unalived himself in his cell. There's a lot of people that believe that this was the final life taken by a guilty man. But there's also a lot of people that believe that Nathan Carman was completely innocent of his mother and his grandfather's murder, and that he was an extremely misunderstood individual that did this to himself after a lifetime of feeling like the world was against him. Following his death, all the charges against Nathan Carman were dropped. Linda was officially declared dead in 2023, and the case on her death is closed. Her father, John's unsolved murder is still considered a closed case. Have you seen this documentary yet? I need to know what your thoughts are. Please let me know all your thoughts, theories, and opinions in the comments. I need to know what you guys are thinking. I feel like this is one that could go either way. So please let me know all your thoughts, theories, and opinions in the comments. But while you're there, please always remember to be respectful. There are living members of this family. There are loved ones that are still alive and are likely on the internet looking at public opinion since this Netflix documentary just dropped. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, but please be respectful. And while you're there, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Thank you to everyone that suggested I covered this case, because there's a lot of you, and I will see you guys all next time in my next video. Please be a good person to your fellow person.